We're not.
We're live. Come back. Turn the lights off, quick. It'll look better. There you go.
There we go. Now we are sexy.
Now we're ready.
No, the correct term is sexy. At
Okay.
least for me.
That works.
For me, I don't know if you're sexy, but I am.
Oh, well, you already know what my rule is, so we're good.
I do know
We won't go into that in public.
All right, so today's talk is about AI. Really hot. Do y'all like hot coffee? I like hot coffee. I don't like hot coffee like my wife does, though. My wife.
I love piping hot, but I forgot how. Well, because I poured it, and then I put the thermos lid on, and I didn't. Normally, I will open it early so it can
cool it a little bit.
Tiny bit, not a lot.
Now, Jessie, my wife, she loves super crazy. She's never satisfied with how hot it is, hardly ever at any Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, well,
We go to Dunkin' Donuts
I can understand that.
And it's just never hot. But the other day, the other day we go and we're in Murfreesboro at Sprouts, and we're like, let's get one, So we get one on the way home. And
that's where Jenkins Jiu-Jitsu place is.
That's what Jessie said, actually.
Yeah, it's on the other end of that plaza.
And she said the other end of the Sprouts block, or the one where the Dunkin' Donuts is. Okay. So the Dunkin' Donuts, we were there and come in, and I'm like talking, and I usually am like pretty chatty when I go. Like I don't go through drive-through windows that much, but I'm like super friendly and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know that they deal with a bunch of creeps, and so I'm always like super like.
Yeah,
hey, I really appreciate it. Like, hey, can you help me out here?
I like to be super friendly.
I'm
with
super
people.
friendly, and so I pull up, and it was like a young, fairly attractive girl, and she was she handed me my cup and stuff. I was like, well, thank you so much, And then we drive off, and Jessie's like, mine's not hot at all, and I'm like, I touch mine, mine's like piping hot, and I try, and I was like, here, let's switch. She's like, no, she only did that because you're so friendly to her. I was like, what?
Well, what do you want? I don't know what to tell you.
Anyway.
It's probably just mixed them up.
Yeah. But anyway, funny story. Oh,
by the way.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, well, let's insert this since we kind of didn't even get into the AI thing yet. So here you go. There's a gift for you.
Gift. I love gifts.
I know you love gifts.
Oh, look it. Oh, man, this one turned out so good. Oh, man. I was wondering if you forgot to do that.
Forgot to do what?
So
forget.
For anybody that don't know, we started
very rarely. Rarely, sir.
We started a hat company from our Word Washed company as a way of branding people, like us branding ourselves. I wear hats all the time. If y'all hadn't seen, and I think every episode.
I wear hats never. If you haven't noticed,
but something I desired so
other
much.
than winter.
Because I always have like this one, for example, is Hanini, which is the statement that Moses says to God at the moment where God calls his name, Moses, and he says, here I am.
Right.
And it's not just a geographical location, here I am. It is, I'm available at your service. And because God kind of knows where he's at. And
I hope so.
But this happens again with Jacob. This happens again with Samuel when he hears the voice of the Lord and he mistakes it for Eli's voice, and he goes in there, and Eli's by the third time is like, "Oh, you're hearing from the Lord. So
stop bothering me.
Stop bothering me, and go the next time he asks you, just be available to him." And so, or next time he says your name. And so one of the I was a big fan of Charlie Kirk and what he did, and he had a big speech. He's the one who turned me on to that repeating pattern throughout Scripture. And Word Washed, our company, is all about yielding and working with business owners and individuals that are trying to yield themselves to the Lord in whatever capacity their talents, their creativity, and their gifts have been given by God, how then they can either form that into a business, market it, et cetera, et cetera. But we have a 5-day weight loss challenge, not as a part of Word Washed, although we may have one of those soon. But
Let's
we
not
have
do
this.
5 days.
I might do it live the first time and make it an automated thing.
Yeah,
perhaps
5 days. Probably get it done in 3.
Maybe, but 5 days you see it more on the scale, so people can experience it. So I think it's worth the extra 2 days because people they'll be excited for the knowledge on day 3, but by day 5 they actually see the scale go down.
That makes sense.
And
I wasn't thinking about the physical ramifications because that's not.
Because then it's like, oh man, how do I continue this? Oh, well, here's some tools to help do that and speed it up, and when you get through plateaus and stuff like that. But to make a long story short, we had fought over the name of the store a little bit because I wanted to call it Jesus Out Loud. A couple weeks ago.
I don't think we fought.
Well, not actually. He persuaded me to keep it named Word Washed Store, and really that's correct. That's the correct name for it. But so we are officially launching this, and I wanted a 1776 hat because I love one. So I found one at Walmart actually. So it's just so funny that this one's already here. So I found this one.
Don't look good. That's why I don't do it. I can wear them that way.
So I found this one, and I got it from my wife.
My melon's too big.
Because she likes to wear hats in 1776. But the thing is the thing I love about the 1776, particularly in the Declaration of Independence, is we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created and endowed by their Creator. And so they actually ground their argument in the transcendent God, not within a man-established government. And so I wanted the same hat or similar hat, but in God we trust.
Yeah, you got to have that on there.
It's just so much better. It's so much better. So with that being said,
since it's on all of our currency.
Since it's, yes, as it should be.
As it should be.
As it should be.
And it's on.
Oh, yeah. Look at that, baby. Woo! I'm so excited about that.
I thought you might be.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I am tickled to death with this. Oh, man, I really am. So good. I should have bought 2.
I only got 1.
I know, that's okay. I'll get it next time. But anyway, so if you want a link to all the different hats, I got a
just wordwash.com.
Wordwash.com. It goes straight to that.
Wordwash.com.
It's so cool. But my idea with it is actually eventually will be creating stories and videos around each message. Because one of the things that I believe about word washing, and we'll get into the AI stuff here in a little bit, but one of the things I believe in word washing is word. Oh, I got to do a podcast on this. So I've been doing this deep dive on.
Write it down.
I won't have to remember this one because this has been a big project of mine. Is working with the word. So in the beginning, John says, in the beginning was the Word.
Yep. And
the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, that word is logos, and a lot of people know this, but you'll find this really fascinating. So roughly 600-ish years before Christ's incarnation, before that was written, you have people like Aristotle talking about the unmoved mover. So he posits that, and this is Greek philosophy. They say, okay, so everything has a cause, for example. He's afraid I'm going to knock stuff over.
No, I just don't want it to be in my camera shot.
Oh, what do you mean? You mean you don't want a giant glass message?
I do not want the water glass from 1968 in my shot. So it's not really my color.
So in the logos, right? That's a Greek word, and most people think of that as just a speech or reasoned, articulated speech, and it is that. But there's a lot more layers to it than that. In fact, about 600 years prior to that, there's a series of Greek philosophers, and eventually I'll do a series on this or a class on this, probably a standalone class on this because it's a very powerful concept. But there's multiple different ones, even Pythagoras, where they are trying to explain how all this came about, and they're regressing back to a first cause. So you could think of
Big Bang Theory.
For example, this right here is a cup, right? But this cup is resting on the foundation of this table, but this table is resting on the foundation of its legs, but its legs are resting on the foundation of
the carpet,
and then the carpet
on the floor,
and then the floor on the
floorboards,
all the floorboards
or the subfloor.
Exactly, and then so on and so forth, and then it's on a mountain. We're on a mountain right now, and
a little tiny one,
but it's the tail end of Appalachia.
Hey, it's enough that when you go down the hill into the bowl, your ears pop.
Correct.
So it's big enough.
It is big enough, and so everything. And then what holds that? What holds that? And so you can think of this, everything and every statement and even the 1776 thing, your grounding rights. They say, among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, what are you grounding those things in? So you either ground them in society and consensus, and this will lead us into the AI thing. And you can ground it in consensus, or you can ground it in just your opinion, whatever you think. And most people don't really realize how they ground their concepts. And so for Aristotle, he said, there must be an unmoved mover, a first cause that didn't require something prior to cause its existence. Now, he didn't name it the Judeo-Christian, Yahweh or anything like that. If he had a conception of it at all, which I doubt. But what you see is over and over and over and over and over again, these Greek philosophers, quoting from about 600 years before Christ all the way up to Christ, they are dancing around this idea of and Aristotle calls it the unmoved mover. Some of them called it the logos. But at the end of the day, it is a divine ordering of things that originates all things. And so this is the reason why the Greeks were all about dialogue. Yeah. Right, because dialogue is through reasoned speech, logos, and so that's where our fondness in the West for dialogue, finding truth and ultimate logic comes from.
Makes sense.
And so when John actually says in the beginning was, the Judeo-Christians, or not Judeo-Christians at the time, the Jews of the time heard in the beginning God created the heavens. They heard that Genesis 1.
Right.
But if you were Greek, you heard Aristotle, right? You heard these Greek philosophers, and they both converge. And John is postulating and pointing out and making the proposition that divine first unmoved mover that exists is perfect logic and entered his creation in the person and incarnation of Jesus. And that is the Christian claim. And that, of course, he then let himself be crucified for the sins of man and then resurrected the third day. And so when I talk about word washing, what I'm actually speaking of is washing ourselves in all the different types of divine logic that exists objectively, not because of our feelings, not because of our... And that's the reason why I love that 1776, In God We Trust, because that's what it's founded in. Now, don't get me wrong. America has all kinds of flaws, did then, does now, and will forever have flaws because it's a man.
Made by humans.
It's made by humans. It's an organization made by humans. But if we can remember that it is in God that we establish these rights and not in man, not in consensus, not in government structures, not in institutions, but that it lifts over, because it says, when in the course of human events, this Declaration of Independence, when in the course of human events, one government, and I'm going to paraphrase from this point forward right now for brevity, and because I'm afraid I'll misquote it, but just to be honest, but they have to disband themselves from one other government, because we have this responsibility to do so, because they have then came in and taken a certain authority that only is issued by God, and the territory doesn't belong to man. And that's the claim they're making in 1776. And it's a pretty radical claim, actually. It's a very truthful claim, but it is radical in its repercussions of thinking. And so,
obviously, and its repercussions for the rest of the world.
and its repercussions for the rest of the world, and its repercussions because it. So if you don't believe that there is an ultimate objective value structure, no matter what that is, I mean, we can argue about what that objective truth structure is, but if there is no objective truth structure, if there's no grounding to, say, morality, then why is it wrong for this person to rape that person? Now, we will all agree in the West, generally speaking, that it is wrong
Correct.
for this person
to
rape this person because it's wrong. The question is why? Well, now you have this regression. You have to come back and find a ground to make that apparent. Well,
it's like building a building.
You gotta ground that claim in something. And and this really will get us into this AI argument because, or not argument, but discussion, because AI is a wonderful tool, but there is something about it that no one, like literally, I hear no one talking about, and it's incredibly important to recognize because of the type of machine it is. So, when someone makes a claim, this is the reason I'm so passionate about kind of throwing stones at atheism, because atheism typically doesn't have a grounding at all, other than, first, when someone says, well, I don't believe in God, and we say, okay, well then how can we say that murdering this person is wrong? Okay. So there's one of like three main ways people go to. Number one, they say, well, just because it obviously is. It's like, well, that's not been the case throughout human history. There have been lots of cultures that thought it was perfectly okay to murder different types of people.
They still exist today.
And they still exist today, exactly. And if you don't believe that, then you just live in a very privileged country.
Go to the Amazon and go mess with some native tribes and see if they just keep you alive because they feel like it.
Exactly, because they somehow believe you have inherent worth as a human. And they don't, because that's not a belief in all cultures. Okay.
You might if you're in the in crowd.
Maybe.
Like I said, you might if you're in the in crowd of the tribe that's currently in power.
That's right.
There's plenty of documentaries on it. Plenty of stuff.
Well, and this is the reason why you don't want a government that has the ability to define those things.
Nope.
Because the government's power structure shifts. So they might be on your side, but you
For a while.
But then if the moment the power changes hands, then suddenly they have the right to change them and arbitrate them.
Isn't that basically what happened in Cuba?
Well, yeah.
They were like, yeah, and they got all these people to revolt and overthrow the government, and then Castro came into power, and then all the people that helped him overthrow it, he was like, yep, don't need you anymore, and he basically disowned them, and then they got all this crappy treatment afterwards because they weren't in the in crowd, and it was a very small group of people that then ended up controlling everything.
Exactly, because there has to be some hierarchical organizational structure.
There always is.
And the hierarchical organizational structure has to define the rules. And because the Christian ethos is that we ought to treat man as made in the image of God, no matter what, because he is.
Yep.
And where's our grounding? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? And so our grounding is God, which is that unmoved mover. And so the second thing people go to is consensus. It's the second thing that people do. Okay? The first impulse, let me backtrack it. And you see this pattern repeat over and over and over again throughout Scripture, actually.
Consensus is a bad idea.
Oh, consensus is such a bad idea. Before we go to consensus, let me backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
The very first thing that happens is people say, well, I want to redefine things on my own terms I want to declare morally good and morally bad based on my unique perspective. Because no one has lived my experience, so then therefore I can be the ultimate arbiter. And that's really what the knowledge tree of good and evil is, as far as I'm concerned. They are partaking of Adam and Eve. God said, this is not good, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and every other tree is good, including the tree of life that will have you live forever. Go eat as much of it as you want. But then Adam and Eve says, actually, no, I'm going to rise my judgment throne a little bit higher, and I'm going to say it is good, in fact. And so I'm going to reorder God's hierarchical value structure and declare something he declared off limits as free for the picking. So
Pun intended.
Pun intended. And so then he does. So then they do so.
Right.
And that then is the first way people reorganize morality, is individually based on personal feelings, subjective feelings. All right. And we have warnings about that in Jeremiah. But now the next step that happens is consensus. And people say, well, if enough group of people get together and agree on this thing, then
we're good.
We're good. Yeah, that's going to work out great.
I can tell you right now it doesn't work, and I can prove it to you with a game.
Let's play.
Well, we can't play currently,
okay.
But
there's not enough of us.
Well, there's not enough of us, but it's an actual game, right? You can play it on your phone if you want. But I would recommend that you play it with friends and family, because Jake and I will play with my sister, my nephew, and her fiance.
Okay.
It's called Among Us. It was a very popular game for a while. I don't know if it's still very popular or not, but it's lots of fun. But it's basically live Clue. In a sense.
I thought this was what you were talking about. Okay, I'm interested in this.
Okay, but hear me out, because there is a level of consensus that happens, right? Okay, so you're playing, and you're on a ship, and there's, depending on how many people are playing, but I don't remember what the number is for the cutoff, but it doesn't matter. So if you only play with 4 or 5 people, or 5 or 6 people, there's only one imposter, one killer, right? And they can kill people.
Killer?
Killer. Just one.
You only did.
Oh, sorry.
So you didn't do quotes. You
sorry.
just did one. I've never seen that before.
Well,
that should be the new. That's fascinating thing.
Anyways, so there's only one killer.
Okay.
And then once you get past a certain number of people,
and one of the players knows they're the killer.
The person that's killer knows they're the killer, but everybody else doesn't know, because it only shows you on your screen what you are. You're either a crewmate or an imposter. And so the objective is to get the ship fixed before everybody dies. And you can call a meeting, and basically you try to sort out who is actual killer, right? So, or you can report a dead body if you see it, but basically it brings you to a meeting, and then everybody can talk, and you have to figure out who's the killer. Well, inevitably, you will get it wrong at some point, because you will think, because somebody was doing something and they looked weird or whatever, you'll think that person's the killer, and they're not. And then you vote them out, and you were wrong. And right there proves that consensus doesn't work. Because we all agree, but we all agree that we were wrong, and it doesn't matter. And I know it's a very simple explanation, but it's exactly what consensus ends up being, especially at scale.
At scale. Well, and that's the problem.
And you're all talking, and it makes it 10 times worse, because there's one person who's out for themselves, and everybody else is out for the group, but you don't know who it is. And so it gets messy.
It really does get messy. And that's actually the messiness of government itself and politics. Because especially in a democratic republic, or really a constitutional republic is what we are, which is definitionally very relevant to this conversation of AI. Now, I'll get back to the political conversation of it in a little while.
You don't want to do your third atheist
and
rebuke?
Oh, so the first one was individually. The second one is by consensus, and then the third one is by institution, and that's kind of displayed in the Tower of Babel. It's where they institutionalize the poor value structures, and then so you ground your argument in the institution. You see this happen when an atheist will say, okay, well, morality is grounded in law. So if you see, for example, a Christian, an intelligent Christian debating an intelligent atheist, a lot of times the atheist will shift the conversation when it gets into morality. they'll say, well, something like abortion is in accordance with the law, as long as it's in accordance with the law. But then that's assuming that then this institution has the right to define what is moral and what is not. And then that leads into the problem of when you say separation of church and state in the way that people think of it. Because there's a way of separation of church and state that is, what are you laughing about?
I'm laughing at the inverse that everybody thinks it is.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
So
you could explain if I didn't spoil it for you.
Most people think that, you didn't, most people think that separation of church and state means that no one in government, no one working in a situation like that should be able to ever bring up anything about God or any arguments having to do with God. And that's not what the separation of church and state. The separation of church and state is about not causing any single denomination from establishing things in the same way that governments often do, because what they recognize is that people are corrupt. And so you want to be able to, and do you have any clarifying points that you want to make?
Oh, so for the separation of church and state, my understanding of it was always that it was basically to protect the church from the state.
Exactly.
And not allow the government to come in and interfere with the church.
Exactly.
Not the inverse.
100%.
Not the inverse.
100%.
Right? So
that
right there
is the most important part of it, is that the state can't come in and do exactly what we just said that the King of Britain had been doing. Right? He had usurped as authority, as Parliament and him had the authority. They then started doing taxation without representation. You know, they list their grievances in the Declaration of Independence.
Yep.
And that is but they're saying, but these rights exist by God, not by government. And you are trying to take that authority and put in. And for example, Hitler actually, if you read about Bonhoeffer, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, in the German church, actually, that's one of the things that Hitler did, is he went in and took all the Bibles away and rewrote them and put them in there and said, this is now the state Bible that y'all will be using. And they erased the Jewish heritage of it. They did a lot of things like that in order to, and Dietrich Bonhoeffer was the one calling out against this. And this was a big he had
deal.
to run away all the time. He ends up being a martyr for it. They sent a petition around, and so the church, the main body, kind of accepted that. And so these are things that are reoccurring themes, because there's always people that try to take power, and then so you have that. So you have a majority vote someone in, give them full authority to redefine values, and then they institutionalize that as a whole. So you have the individual taking the masses and then reorganizing the value structures institutionally. Oh, Zach's got something on his phone right now. What we got?
So I was re-listening to this book. It's really good. It's called The Crowd.
I got to read that book.
The study of the popular mind.
Yeah.
And it talks about a lot of the crowd mentality and things that happen during protests and riots and different things like that. And a lot of.
Did you see that one reel we got? So we got a comment on this reel that you did when you were talking about a little bit about this.
Anti-protesting
psyop. They said they said that you were a psyop.
I guess.
I've
been to.
Listen. I heard someone say, I think it was Scott Adams. He said the craziest thing is when you're a media personality. He said you will read things about yourself that people say with and he was like, you finally realize just how ridiculous things are, and you don't buy into things as much because like, what? Like,
right.
Like we're in an office next to my house.
Oh, I know.
I laughed out loud when I read that. That was hilarious.
Well, I was going to respond to it, and then I'm like, I don't even know what they're going for. I can't even answer, unfortunately. I would like to answer, but I don't. I'm like, can you clarify for me?
I think they were saying that you were
saying don't protest.
Put here to planted to be able to use persuasion to cause people to disbelieve in protest.
So, so if that's the
you
case,
you work from the CIA.
Yeah, okay. They would not hire me. Well, maybe they would. I don't know, but
no,
that's potential. Anyways, so let me, if based on that, let me clarify that.
No, you would
quick.
never give your allegiance like that. I don't think.
Oh, I wouldn't give my allegiance.
That's the problem.
Oh well, not anymore. There's probably a point in time where it's potential.
Wait a minute. Are you a CIA?
I don't know. Ask Laura.
All right.
She probably has a good story about that. So, anyways, I have been to protests.
Yeah.
I've been in crazy big groups.
Yes.
Where crazy stuff happens, right? Concerts, just general parties and things like that. And there is this draw to...
There's an energy in the room.
Well, there's an energy that's separate.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is separate. So there's energy, right? But there's this, because there's so many people and because there's so much going on, you inherently know that you can't keep track of everything. And so because I can't keep track of everything, I don't believe anybody else can either, right? And so there's this belief that you can do things that you wouldn't normally do. Right? And it holds true in all regards. So I'll tell you a story to prove the point. So I live in Ohio, and I had some friends that went to OU. OU is a giant party school, right? It was like known across the country for having giant crazy parties. And so in the spring they have a different party that's campus wide every weekend in the spring. It's wild. So I went to one of them because, like I said, I had a couple buddies down there. And so it was a whole block that's just houses open, beer everywhere. It's pandemonium. It's crazy. So I was there and I was on a porch and I was drinking and I was there. And then as the night progresses, the street gets more rowdy. And then out of nowhere, people start bringing furniture out of houses and throwing it in the street. And then they set it on fire. Okay, right? Well, obviously, if you're renowned in the whole country for being one of the top party schools, like if they rank them, it's one of the top party schools in the country. So they already know that this is probably going to happen because it's not their first rodeo. So they have police in riot gear and they have the fire department there. Well, they come in and they clear everything out, right? And I left because I don't want anything to do with that, right? If a cop with riot gear comes up and he's got a plastic shield and a billy club and he says, go home, and he pokes you with his billy club, you're probably going to leave.
If you're sane.
If you're sane, I left. Now, the people that were in the middle burning stuff didn't necessarily leave right away. It took a little bit of hosing down with some fire, with the fire hoses and things like that. But here's my point. So that all happened. Yes, there was alcohol involved, but alcohol is not needed for that to happen.
No.
But if you are by yourself or even with one friend, you are not going to take your furniture or go get random furniture, take it to a street and burn it. You're not going to do that because you're going to get arrested. Now, did people get arrested that night? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I didn't get arrested because I left. But the point is I didn't feel like I was going to get arrested. Was there a temptation to go throw stuff into the fire? Of course there was, but I didn't. The whole point is that people do really crazy things when they get in a big group of people because they think they can get away with it. So it's not, don't protest. It's just be careful when you're in that situation that you will be lured into doing something you would not normally do.
Well, and
because there's this sense of, I won't be caught. I won't get in trouble. Anyways, back to that. So Hitler was a big fan of that book. And he used, and that book was written in like 17 or in the 1800s, right? So well before Hitler's time. Yeah. He's a big fan of the book. But one of the things that the book talks about is the fact that because prior to this time, it was monarchs and, dukes and duchesses and all that. They made the rules, and there was no middle class, right? There was the monarchs, the royalty, and then there was everybody else, right? And the army. That's basically it. Well, the middle class gets formed, right? And now the people have an opinion. People have protests. They form labor unions. They do all these things that cause change. And he talks a lot about the fact that statesmen will be beholden to the masses, and they will be in this state of trying to figure out how to manage and guide the masses as well as stay in power, right? And what I think is fascinating is what you were talking about Hitler with the Bibles. He got consensus among the masses, and then it didn't matter, right? Because you basically have got this mob to say, nope, this is right. Well, here comes your consensus problem again. Yep. You're not going to overpower that mob. Nope. And he knew that. And so he used that to his advantage.
Of course, and redirected the energy of it.
He directed the energy of it to where he wanted,
yep.
Right? With propaganda and a whole bunch of other things, which are not, those tactics haven't gone away. So, don't be confused that it still happens today.
Oh, yeah, don't be confused that, we're past all that.
Yeah, we're past all that.
Yeah, right.
No, we're not.
We live in it way more deep and thick than they did.
Right, because you have constant access.
Exactly.
Constant access.
And, and this brings me, before we shift to, we have the individual value structure changing from objective values. Mm-hmm. Now, we can argue later on another podcast on what objective is or what the correct value structure is.
Well, that'll be a really boring argument because I think we pretty much aligned on that.
We do. We do.
We might have to get a guest in
God
here.
said it, right? Now, that doesn't seem to satisfy a lot of people. But it's actually a deeper answer than what most people realize.
Sure satisfies me.
But I'm just laying that to the side right now because for right now, pretty much everybody agrees that evil does exist. Because the other argument, like the fourth argument, is that, evil and good doesn't even exist. It's purely just our feelings around it, and it just is. And so then there. And so that is really the nihilistic or the nihilistic viewpoint.
It's a very interesting
one.
And
so someone like Friedrich Nietzsche, who was the famous guy philosopher that said, God is dead. And he actually didn't say it as, the God's not dead movies kind of came out of that quote. But that God is dead quote that Nietzsche said was actually, he actually didn't think it was a good thing, even though he's an atheist. He said it actually will produce so much blood that we'll never have a mop big enough to clean up. Mm-hmm. And his solution was we'll have to create our own value structures to keep ourselves contained. But that doesn't work either because that's really what has happened in cross-postmodernism, and you see these little bitty factions breaking off everywhere.
Is he not the one that, did he not convert? Or is that a different?
Not Nietzsche.
Is that a different one?
Not Nietzsche, no.
It was somebody else. There's another
Yeah.
There was another one that
So no, Nietzsche was he actually died crazy, I think, if my memory serves me correctly. But he went crazy. But
who was the guy that got imprisoned in Russia and then converted?
I don't know.
All right, never mind.
Sure.
Not relevant.
So,
has a similar name.
Gotcha.
Messing me up.
And so, anyway, he that idea of nothing means anything. Everything was just a big bang, and there was no banger to bang it. There was no unmoved mover. It was just the bang happened, and then it was purely
it's all random chance.
Just random chance, and given enough infinitism, then you will stumble upon just enough mutations in just the right order, given the probability, even if it's 0.00000001, given enough time, enough infinitude, enough different universes, which is why string theory exists, right? To explain all the different universes that are all created. We just happen to live in the one because inevitably one had to develop just because of math. I think that's a poor argument, but
I think it's a poor argument. I think Myron actually enlightened me to one of the best anti-arguments for that ever.
Okay.
It's physics.
Continue.
Well, the law of entropy.
I agree.
It makes perfect sense. You don't leave something
and then it get better.
No. It does not happen. It does not exist.
It does not happen in our universe.
Right. And so it doesn't make any sense.
Well, there's too many arguments against atheism in that way. For example, if you look at a mathematician, they'll say, wait a minute. If you look at the number of mutations that happen, as we're talking about adaptation, there's too many large-bodied creatures, because we can see adaptation happen pretty rapidly in like fruit flies, things with very short lifespans that has the crazy amounts and you can see different mutations and adaptations that take place. They don't turn into different species. We've never observed that. But you do see...
It's an adaptation. It's not a mutation.
Well, the adaptation is, from a biological standpoint, mutations happening in the sense of genes turning off.
I'm sorry. I mean... brand new species.
Yeah, brand new species.
Not brand new species that has completely different features and functions.
No. There's no new species. Like, Chihuahuas and poodles and Dalmatians and Great Danes all have the same.
They're still dogs.
They're all dogs. Right. And so the point is we can see adaptation like that, but there's this category shift that happens, and they take that same idea. And they say, well, that also applies in a chemical fashion, and that's what gave rise to life. But that's a category shift. That's not that's not talking about the same thing. Okay, so it doesn't explain speciation. But going back to what I was talking about from the mathematical perspective, large-bodied creatures don't have a lot of offsprings. Take humans,
whales,
giraffes, whales,
elephants,
hippopotamuses. Is it hippopotamuses or hippopotami? What is the plural for hippopotamus?
Hippopotamuses.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think it's the second one.
What?
I don't think it was the second one.
Hippopotami?
Yeah. I'm gonna go with it's not that. It might be something else. But
it sounds like that would be a good one though. Octopus. You say octopi. So hippopotamus. Hippopotami, I think that works.
Potentially.
Okay, so going back, let me get through this mathematical argument. So if you account for, even if you give the Earth the 4.2 billion years, and even if you give the universe the 14.3 billion years, that is kind of the standard consensus. But let's say it is, okay, for the sake of argument. If you look at the rate of positive mutations to negative mutations, because most even adaptation mutations actually result in bad things happening and the entity surviving a shorter period of time rather than, but we do see positive ones given certain environments. And so when you see those positive ones given certain environments, that does give it an added advantage. the ratio to positive mutation to negative mutation is so low that even at 14.3 billion years, it doesn't give us the number of different species that exists on our Earth as an explanation. So there's multiple different ways to attack that idea.
The funny thing is this, from a time and from a data standpoint, 14.3 billion is not that much.
No.
It's really not that much.
No.
Like, computers can handle larger data sets than that.
Yes.
And so it's not that much. It's kind of crazy. I have an interesting factoid to kind of throw in on the counter side of that.
Okay.
So I saw this clip. Do you know how many cross references are in the Bible?
A lot.
It's like 66,000 and some change.
It's crazy.
It's wild.
You ever seen that chart?
That's the chart I'm talking about.
Yeah.
66,000. That book's not that long.
I know.
66,000 cross references. So crazy.
So cool.
Written by how many different authors? Over the span of how long?
Exactly.
Yeah. Tell me there you go.
On different continents. 3 different continents. 4? Is it 4?
I think it's 4.
Might be.
I think it's 4.
Wild, huh? That's right. So,
even if it's 3, whatever.
So let's get into AI for a second.
Sure.
Because I think this is I think actually it's very relevant to what we've been talking about so far.
Oh, I know it's relevant.
Yeah. And so let me before we go into that though, let me tie up a loose end that I think we left dangling at the beginning, where we was talking about consensus being bad.
Okay.
And because this raises a question, because someone's going to hear us say that and be like, "Oh, okay, so you don't believe in voting, you don't believe in
true.
these things." That's true for you?
No.
Is that what you said?
No, it's not true for me. I believe in voting. It's true that someone's going to think that.
100%. Okay, yeah.
Obviously, based on some of our other...
I was like, whoa, that's throwing me for a loop.
Some of our other
So
outlandish comments.
Yeah, and so it's important to understand, to put consensus in the correct hierarchical place, because mobs will do anything. Consensus can be all kinds of different things. Mm-hmm. And this is the whole reason why we are in the United States a constitutional republic, which is 2 steps away from pure democracy. So you got pure democracy, but that's just anarchy, because it's majority rules. So if a bunch of tall people, if there's enough tall people to get together and there's short people around, which it wouldn't be, the short people could actually vote out all the tall people.
Very easily.
Very easily, because it's like 20% that's over 6 foot, right? 14% that's over, right? And so tall people are a minority in that way.
We're screwed.
Right? In that way.
No.
So then if the masses decided in a pure democracy to eliminate
or tax them higher.
Or tax taller people higher,
Yeah.
they could. And the whole reason we have a constitution is the Constitution is, say, the Bible, the value structure that the masses can't alter and supersede. They can change anything within and under that hierarchical value arrangement, but they can't change it itself. They can to some degree, but it's a really long process through amendments and things.
Yeah.
Okay, and usually the amendments are for clarity or the design is for clarity rather than for changing it as much as for clearing up disagreements about where people have disagreed on how clear it is.
Right.
And so that's actually one of the arguments some of the founders made against the Bill of Rights, because one of the things that, I can't remember, it might have been Madison or it might have been Adams, and it might have been someone else that was arguing why in the world, like, do not do a Bill of Rights. And their argument was, if you do a Bill of Rights, because they're like, oh, you're anti-rights. I said, no. Because the Constitution is very clear that the government doesn't have the authority unless the Constitution explicitly states that it has a right to. So then, therefore, if the Constitution doesn't tell the government you have the power to do blank, then if it says you have the power to do this, then it has the power to do that. If it doesn't say it, then it is assumed they don't have the power to do it. Now, their argument was that if you then list rights that the citizens have, then it flips that, and then it makes the government assume if it's not listed, then the government does have the right to move it around. And that was a shift that happened from the Constitution that we know today to the time of the Bill of Rights. And it has flipped now, because they say now that Truman, I think, was one. There was, and I don't want to say Truman because I'm not sure, but there was a couple different presidents that actually said, if it didn't explicitly say I couldn't, I assumed I could. Which is actually if you read the Federalist Papers, that's exactly what they warn against, that they don't want to happen, because it will inevitably...
It becomes, it strays back to the monarchy and that power...
To that centralized power hub that's not dispersed across the geographic continent.
Yep.
And back to the people, because they want they also say that that people have to submit voluntarily to that government. And so it's a participatory, voluntary process. What are you laughing about now?
I would like to voluntarily not pay taxes.
We'll see.
Thanks. I'd like to not sign up for some of these things.
Well, that's actually what it's designed. Like,
I know.
It's originally designed. That's because now you have these three-letter agencies that are
terrifying,
not elected.
Nope.
At all.
Nope.
They are appointed, and then they are
given some outlandish power to
tax without representation. Yep. It's actually the real thing that's actually happening, and mandate, et cetera, et cetera. And so it is a very strong drift away from the way our checks and balances in the United States. This, again, 1776. This is I'm very fond of 1776. And then, of course,
glad
the
I
later
brought the hat
Constitution.
today.
I am too. It worked out great. Well, it actually worked extra good, because at first I was like, oh, man, how am I going to tie this in? But then I realized that because it really comes back to consensus. And so I want to go to Exodus for a second, okay? Because AI is the big topic of today. It is the big thing. Yeah. I use AI. You use AI.
I do.
It's increasingly everyone's using AI. Mm-hmm. And the correct way to use AI is to understand. I titled this, before you ask AI anything again, you need to know this, and this is what it is. Before you ever type a single question into AI, any large language model, ChatGPT, Claude,
Perplexity. Gotcha.
I'm going to say that again. Before you type anything again into ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, or any other AI system, you need to understand how it works. Otherwise, it will lead you astray without you even realizing it. Okay, so there's this thing that happens in Exodus. Okay, Moses, the people's like, I don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. We're in the wilderness. They just escaped Egypt. They went through the waters, and waters parted. Most people understand the waters parted. They go through, they know the story, and they're here in the desert. They don't know where their water is. They don't know where their food's coming from. They don't know where all this stuff is coming from. And they're having all these disagreements and all these things, and they need a constitution. They need a vertical, hierarchical arrangement of values for the nation. Okay, so that's what a constitution ultimately is. And so for this new nation that's being formed, they are...
It's already a nation.
That's already a nation, and it's chaotic. And so Moses goes up
Mount Sinai.
And God first comes down, right? And he's like, here's all my commandments. And they're freaking out, and they're scared, and they're saying,
I can't do this.
So Moses, you go do it for us, right? And so Moses goes up there, and
what a scene.
God writes with his own finger the Ten Commandments. Okay? Now, here's the
Must be
fascinating
nice.
thing.
Must be nice not to have to carry a pen.
So, understand, like, this is so fascinating because what is the Ten Commandments? It's a hierarchical ordering of values for that nation. Okay? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Okay? So no other God is to rise in reordering these value structures. Okay? It goes down. Thou shalt not have any idols. Right? Honor thy father and mother. All these different ones. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's stuff. Okay, so you go through all these things, and here's the things you ought not do. And they're in hierarchical order and arrangement. The first 4 are man's relationship with God. The last 6 is man's relationship to other people horizontally. And while they're waiting on that to happen, we have this amazing thing that happens. Okay? They're sitting there, and they get tired of waiting on Moses. They're like, he might be dead up there. We don't know.
And we ain't going up to find out.
We ain't going up to find out. So, do you know what we need? You know, we need a God that we can see, touch. And this becomes a consensus among them. Okay? Now, they then go to Aaron, who is the politician. Okay? Because he's speaking for them.
Let's not forget, it's like 600,000 people.
Well, I think it's more than that. It's millions.
Oh, I was counting men. Isn't it like 600,000 that it's men?
Crazy.
It's a lot of people.
It's crazy amounts of people.
It's not a small amount of people.
So they're coming, and they are voting. We need this golden calf. Okay, so they're remaking Egypt by building this golden calf that the Egyptians worshipped, right? And so they already know about these commandments, by the way. They already agreed to them. Mm-hmm. Moses goes up to codify it in stone tablets, okay? And so he goes up there to make the covenant that they've already yielded to and submitted to. And then they're like, you know what? We changed our mind. We think that it would be best to build this golden calf. Okay? So they can see. And the fascinating thing is Aaron then says, fine, give me your gold. He's reluctant. But that's the thing about a politician is they're beholden to the people. You
got a million people yelling at me that you want to do this.
That's right.
He knows he can't make it out if he doesn't do it.
And so he does it, and then they have this golden calf. The moment Moses comes down off Mount Sinai, he throws the Ten Commandments. Why? Because he's breaking the covenant? No, they already broke it.
Yep.
It's not even valid anymore.
Right.
They already broke it. Before even what got to be fully codified and written. Now, why is this important? Well, Moses asked Aaron, like, what in the heck, brother? Aaron is Moses' brother, his older brother. He's like, what the heck? He said, I don't know what happened. We just collected all this gold and threw it in the fire and out popped it. And the fascinating thing about that is because if you understand how the large language models work even a little bit, is that is actually how the large language models work. So they do not try to establish objective truth or objective morality. They actually take consensus by being fed all kinds of different human creations, opinions, thoughts, articles, videos, and this is how they're trained. And so then the consensus becomes the definitions of things rather than the epistemology of the things. And what I mean by epistemology is just what does historically these words mean versus how has the media been using these terms.
Right.
And so you get this drift between what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. You get this drift away from objective morality, and you don't know it you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
And then it will also then bend you in its outputs. It's like you'll have it fight with you about things that you know objectively to be true. Say, yes, but it's very important to recommend it. It's very important to let you know right now, even though this is not what you asked for, that it is agreed upon in authoritative sources that these things are true. What do you mean authoritative? What authoritative? So I have to ask it all the time. What authoritative sources are you talking about? Well, they need to give me these 3-letter agencies or that. So, well, and what makes them right? Well, it's a consensus. When is consensus right? Throughout history, how often has consensus been wrong?
A lot.
A lot.
Obviously, you changed the Bible. You let Hitler change you rewrote the Bible.
Exactly.
Rewrote the Bible. Not rewrote. Rewrote the Bible.
In German.
And it
That's right.
literally says in there, do not alter it.
I know.
It's a pretty direct command. Do not alter God's words.
That's right.
Terrifying.
In fact, it's breaking, thou shalt not bear false witness. Or thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain.
That part.
Because that word take means to travel with or to represent as his messenger without being his messenger. That's scary.
Not a good idea.
Because people think that it's just cursing with the Lord's name. While I don't curse with the Lord's name and I can't stand when I hear it. But it's really talking about speaking on God's behalf.
When God didn't send you.
When God didn't send you.
Dangerous stuff.
That's more dangerous than you imagine. Like, so at the end of that, they pulled down, actually in Germany, they pulled down during Hitler's rise and when he took over the state church, they pulled down the statues of the saints, put statues of him in instead. Like, it was wild stuff.
Oh, yeah, they did wild stuff.
And the thing...
All on consensus.
On consensus, right? Until it wasn't consensus anymore, but it didn't matter because it was already institutionalized.
Yep.
Right, at that point. And then that authority had been given over.
Yep.
And so one of the things is it's not that AI is bad, but the thing is with AI, and so many people use it as just search engines, they try to find and help arbitrate truth from it. And you literally cannot do that because you have no unmoved mover. So you're sourcing from moving movers all the time. And so you don't have an objective value structure.
I like messing with it, though.
I use it all the time. What I fights with it all the time. What I'll do is if you actually want to use it in any kind of real way, this is a practical step for anyone. What you want to do is you want to say, I want you to assume that this, if you're looking at you're looking at biblical things. So I want to assume, I don't want to take current critical scholarship as the ultimate authority for the Old Testament. So here's a great example. So for years, in critical scholarship, and just to define what critical scholarship is for the audience, critical scholarship is where...
Define it for me.
Okay, critical scholarship in biblical things is where you have all these people that get all these different old manuscripts that they dig up, and they dig up some all the time, Greek manuscripts from the New Testament. And their job is looking through, because there's differences. And not huge differences, but little differences all over. And it's like, okay, is this word in which one's the oldest copy? What's likely to have added the, or this, that, or the other thing? Oh, there's things written in the margin here. Is that thing that's written in the margin of this copy
a note?
A note, or is it actually they skipped a line when they were copying it and they were inserting it?
You mean they didn't have word processors? Or you could
didn't have word processors.
Copy, paste, throw it in where you want it?
And the Romans were trying to kill them, and they were writing with candlelight with very small materials, right? And so you get these called, it's called variants. Mm-hmm. And and people blow them up as if it's a polar bear attacking the leg of a man, which brings up a big scary picture. Dr. Daniel Wallace does this in his presentations sometimes. He'll say, I want everybody to close their eyes and imagine a polar bear attacking a man. and it's like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Then he shows a picture, and it's like a baby one that's like this big, that's like looks like a cat on this leg's man, and it's like this is actually what the New Testament variants is, but because the way they present the arguments, it makes it feel like, oh my gosh, we can't trust the Bible. And it's actually because of the variants that we can trust the Bible. That's another conversation for another day, but it's actually really cool. But where was I going with that? What did I bring up? Oh,
you were telling me
this critical scholarship. Mm-hmm. Oh, great. For years, critical scholarship gets things wrong quite frequently because there'll be these theories comes out. And for example, there was predominant theory from late 1800s to early 1900s, all the way up to I think the 1980s, that the Gospel of John was written after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. And so that changed the way the critical scholarships would think about stuff until they discovered a little bitty, about credit card sized piece of papyri being the Greek, the material that's used, and it's of John's Gospel, and it dates to the 50s. And so, yeah.
Whoops.
And so literally all the theories that came from that to explain things just disappeared. Evaporated overnight, because that was a physical piece of archaeology that was right there and like testable. And so now everybody agrees that John's much earlier than between 50 and 90, and most likely before the temple destruction in the year 70. And so really fascinating. Another one is and one that's still somewhat current is something called the documentary hypothesis. And so, if you notice in Genesis chapter 1, it's an account of creation, and then Genesis chapter 2, it almost feels like it almost does it again, but a little bit different, from a little different perspective. And it's more about God forming man out of the dust of the ground, and so it goes a little more specific, and it's a little more out of order, because then he makes the animals to come and for Adam to name him. And so there is this predominant theory, and it's falling out of circulation now. There's this predominant theory that it was called the documentary hypothesis, and it's in some study Bibles, you see. They believe that it was actually like 4 different accounts of creation, and then there was one editor that kind of edited them all together as a chapter and blended them. But I have a problem with that, because God, or Jesus in this case, Jesus in the New Testament credits the Torah, the first 5 books, to Moses. So if he credits those first 5 books to Moses, I believe Moses put them together.
Most likely.
I believe he authored them, or put them together, co-authored them with the Holy Spirit, however you want to think about it. But not however you want to think about it, but for brevity. But so that
God let him use his pen instead of his finger.
There you go. I like that. That was good. So instead of God using his finger, he got Moses to use a pen.
Plus that many stone tablets doesn't bind up very well.
Not very well. Or roll up. That definitely doesn't roll up.
Doesn't roll up. Not very transportable.
But the thing is, which is so fascinating, is that only occurs, based on what I said, because of my belief that is authoritative, that the New Testament is authoritative. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't disagree with the documentary hypothesis without having a fundamental value structure to begin with. And so then the question is, well, how do you have AI answer things in a way that's helpful for your soul versus very detrimental to your soul? Well, you have to give it a source of truth and then contain it within it. Doesn't mean it won't hallucinate. It'll still hallucinate. But you have to say, these are the things and the perspectives and the belief structures that I want you to utilize while you're giving me feedback on word definitions in these areas.
Right.
And so, because otherwise you've actually, because AI is a giant golden calf. Right. Mm-hmm. And so the act of bowing down to worship something is the act of letting it rearrange your value structures. That's what bowing down. That's what elevating something to a place of worship is where you're working for it. You're rearranging your value structure for it. That's the reason why, we don't work on the Sabbath. Okay, not because we're not Seventh-day Adventists at any stretch of imagination, but the reason why we do this is because I found myself making work a god. And so it had elevated to the point where I was sacrificing time with my wife and my kids 7 days a week, all the time. And I realized, holy crap, that's what I've done, because I'm sacrificing. Whatever you're sacrificing for, that's what you worship. When you sacrifice for a thing repeatedly over time, that you are worshiping it, you've elevated it to a place of worship. And that's something that happens with AI all the time. Because they're sacrificing their own thinking, their own thoughts, their own reasoning. They're sacrificing all these things for the sake of convenience, speed, and being relevant. And anytime and that's actually how institutions are built. So you see AI actually doing three things in the same time. Is you see, and that's the reason why I'm concerned. I basically see it as we're kind of in the stage of it being a golden calf, but it's probably going to be a Tower of Babel, and if it's not already, because you have the individuals coming in, and it's trying its best, as you've mentioned many times, to satisfy the person. It's not trying to find truth; it's trying to satisfy the person as quick as possible with the least amount of energy as possible.
Yeah, you have to fight with it to give you a good and thorough answer. And if you notice, it rarely argues with you. At least not on your first question.
No. The only time it argues with you is if the consensus, because I go, it'll argue with me quite a bit, primarily
on your first pass.
Yes.
Well,
it's the way I'm phrasing things.
But you're phrasing it. But if you're seeking an answer,
no,
right?
It won't argue with
if you're asking it a question and asking for something, we'll say relatively simple, it's not going to give you a thorough answer.
No.
It will look thorough to you. It will look thorough, but if you ask it for more, you have to engage it and poke at it to get it to get it to, and it's rarely going to be critical. It's like, for example, it's similar to asking your mother her opinion about something
that you made,
right?
I drew this picture.
Hey, what is it? Oh, it's great, honey. That's its general answer.
Yeah.
Especially if you bring it, hey, what do you think about this? Oh yeah, blah blah blah, and it'll make up crap.
My wife, so she had ChatGPT help her make these little poems for my two boys because they were graduating preschool and kindergarten. Yeah. She made these little, and she was telling me, she was like, man, it makes you feel so good. She said it's so deceptive. She said, because I want some poems, and I want it, and she included some qualities about each of them, and it folded them into the poem.
Of course.
And then she was like, it came back, and it was like, oh, these are, and she was like, thank you. And it came back with like, oh, I really think the additions that you gave for this really is going to make it unique for them, and they'll feel, and you'll have a long treasured memory for a long time, and all this kind of stuff. And she was like, oh my gosh, I could feel myself feel good because of the way it phrased back and congratulated me for these things. It's like, so Brian Regan has this bit. It's hilarious. You should totally go. He's a comedian. He's my favorite comedian, Brian Regan. And he does this thing. He's like, I love going to a fancy restaurant. He's like, because they always make you feel good for whatever you order. He's like, you sit down and have all this stuff there, and the waiter, what will you have there, sir? He's like, I just think about having a hamburger and French fries. Or I have a hamburger. And he said, the The waiter would say, excellent choice there, sir.
Yes, I did a wonderful job.
Well, buckle up because you ain't heard nothing yet. I want some fries with cheese on them, But it makes you feel really good. And so what happens is a couple things are happening with AI. Not a couple things, multiple things are happening with AI. It's this consensus machine. So it's going to first give you the consensus of what's the ethos of what it's been fed. That's number one. And so number two is after that, it will then try its best to do that consensus as fast as possible. And this is primarily an economic concern because AI is running off loads of energy to do those calculations that spit out things in a second. The level of energy that is demanded, we don't have enough to meet the demand.
Yeah, because the databases are enormous.
Exactly, which is the reason why they give you only so many prompts when it's free and then get you to have to pay because otherwise they're already losing money because they're working based off investors right now putting things in. Mm-hmm. And so they're hoping that AI will solve that problem itself. Perhaps it will, perhaps it won't. I don't know. The models are getting absolutely insane. The new, what's it called? The new one that just come out from Claude is insanity. Fable 5. Oh my gosh. Where every website's going to be like video interactiveness. It's insanity. Anyway, but the technology is increasing so fast, but it's all being fed back into the system, and so it ends up being consensus. And then you have the institutions themselves that establish so much of the parameters just by what they deem as authoritative, right? Like any three-letter agencies. Go ahead.
I'll tell you the argument. You finish, and then I'll tell you.
No, you go.
Okay, so I was having an argument with it, and it was very funny. So because I was talking with it about calories and that kind of stuff, because there's some very interesting things, right? Because if you go by normal macros, you only want to get so much carbs, certain amount of protein, certain amount of fat.
Based on your body weight.
And so, it's giving you this breakdown, and I go, okay. But so if I'm eating more protein, I was being purposely
disingenuous.
I was purposely prompting it to get it fired up. In essence, I was poking the bear, and so I was like, well, in theory, protein doesn't count, right? Protein calories kind of just don't count at all. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. And I'm like, well, kind of. I said because you've heard of rabbit starvation, and technically, if I eat only protein, I'll starve. And it's like, well, yeah, but you don't understand that's different. And I'm like, okay, how is it different? Because if I eat 3,000 calories of protein in a day, it won't matter. I'll starve.
Okay.
Right? Because your body doesn't store protein. Yeah. It cannot store protein. You just pee it out. And rabbit starvation is technically kidney failure because your kidneys have to overproduce to get rid of all the extra protein. But it still doesn't. It's like, hey, wait a minute though. You're missing the point here, because if that's true, then those calories in a way don't count the same way as these. And it's like, well, technically you're kind of right, because it takes more energy to burn protein. So you're not those calories. You have to use a certain amount of calories to actually gain those calories. I'm like, oh, okay. So your breakdown is incorrect then, because there's a 20% loss in my protein. And it's like, well, you don't know. So, and then it keeps trying to revert back to these authoritative things. Yes. But in theory, if I eat 1,000 calories of protein, I'm only I'm only actually getting 800 because there's a 20% loss, especially on heavier, on like red meats and things like that, because it takes so much energy for your body to break it down.
Because there's more.
Because
Yes.
because of the process, right?
Yeah.
Because there's more energy output to get the nutrients. So I'm like, so right there alone, it can't count the same. So you're giving me this number, and it can't be right. And so it was just this long back and forth of all these things, and it constantly, once you kind of get it into this, you kind of box it into this corner, it goes to almost, it's not ad hominem fallacies, but it almost does, because it goes, no, but you don't understand, there's this thing over here, and it's this proven science, and it says this.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, well, those theories have been proven wrong time and time and time again, and so we don't know because it's still a theory. So anyways, it's not completely definitive, and obviously I was poking at it, and I don't think that protein calories don't count at all. I get that they count, but it was just a fun exercise, because
So I'll tell you a fun exercise that I tell you
it's lots of fun for me to do stuff like that.
I'll tell you what a fun exercise was that happened to me one time. Is I typed in, because I was curious what it would say the definition was. Okay. So I typed in the word. I said, tell me what discrimination means.
Oh boy.
And immediately it goes into this frame of racial discrimination. And that's not what discrimination means.
Right.
Racial discrimination is a form of discrimination.
Right, but it's a subcategory of the larger category of discrimination.
Exactly. Discrimination is literally the only way you can think, because you're differentiating a glass from a microphone
Or a metal container.
or a metal container. You're contrasting differences. That is what discrimination is. And so, for example, when I chose my wife above other women, I was in participatory with a discriminatory process, because I discriminated against all the other females in pursuit of my wife. And you did the same thing with Laura.
I did.
And the same thing is true when I picked out these glasses. I discriminated against the other choices of glasses and that shirt, and literally concepts and reasoning. And if people watch this YouTube video over another YouTube video, everybody discriminates.
I didn't discriminate that hard, because I think I got almost every color they made of this shirt, because I like it a lot.
Discrimination itself is not bad at all. It literally is the only way to think. And so I was having this conversation with it. And of course, it was freaking out to begin with. Of course, immediately it was like, well, yeah, I mean, of course, that epistemologically, that is what discrimination means. But it's just most commonly used in this way, and this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, I was like, yes, but I wasn't asking for the consensus of how it's used in modernity right now. I'm asking, what is its function? Like, what is it? And it was like, well, of course, yeah, I should have told you that to begin with, you know. And then, of course, it then tries to placate me and tell me why it should have, but it was just doing this other thing because, you know, it was supposed to go to the most common uses and stuff. And I was like, but that is a lie. That is a functional lie, is because you're calling a category of thought as being inherently wrong. I agree that rejecting someone or discriminating someone, letting them buy something from somewhere or not based something as shallow as skin color is the stupidest, most ignorant thing on planet Earth. It's dumb. It's so stupid. It's just dumb.
It's very dumb.
It's so dumb. Like, I don't even believe in races, though. So I don't believe that's a thing. Like, I don't believe that there's race. I believe that all people were made in the image of God, and that's just the way it is. I don't believe that there's races. I think there's variation between one race. There's variation in one race. I don't think that race is much different than height differences, if any.
Height differences, or if you jump to a different species, there's how many different dogs.
Exactly.
They're all, but they all fall under canine.
Exactly.
Small ones,
Exactly.
big ones.
It's just
multicolored
it's insanity.
It's
but see,
stupid.
but what that displayed, what bothered me so much is the elevation of identity in the hierarchy of value of how someone evaluates language was present in the AI system.
Yeah.
Because if you elevate skin color of any kind as a top priority, you're in idolatry.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that again. If you elevate skin color as a high priority, you are living in idolatry. Because what you're now then doing is judging and reorienting your value structure from that place. So you will make differentiation and contrasts in a different way than you would. And just by asking the definition to ChatGPT, what is discrimination? It immediately placed its answer within the hierarchy of identity, skin color identity, racial identity as a really high priority to make sure, be careful here in this domain. It's like, I get that there's a lot of feelings in
And
that.
a lot of tension.
And a lot of tension in that. But if we can't actually use language to actually point to ideas have nothing to do,
Can't have dialogue.
you can't have dialogue. That's the point. Because dia is through, log is logos.
Yep.
And so you can't walk through logos.
Yeah.
Because you've re-identified terms, give them different meanings, and actually made an amalgamation, which is what the golden calf is an amalgamation of a bunch of people's ideas, consensus melted down, and then out pops the product.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happens to AI. You dump these questions in there, and it's melded together with all the consensus of the day of what it's been trained on, and it pulls. And then that's also because if it's then scanning Wikipedia and NIH and all these large websites, then not only is it consensus, but it's consensus of those that gets the most traffic. It's consensus of consensus. So it's a derivative of consensus that is going to be further distorted than even the original consensus. It's such a nightmare, and people don't know it.
It's a thing.
It's such a nightmare and people don't know it. I love AI. I do. I like it so much. I don't love it. I like it so much in a lot of different ways. But people are always worried about the singularity, general intelligence, how many jobs are going to be lost, how much money is it going to cost, does it got demons in it and stuff. All those questions are important. Okay? I think a more subtle, more dangerous problem is the consensus problem, the golden calf problem, because people think that because at the end of the day, the only way to orient any society is through an agreed upon value structure. That is it. That is it. And so you have to share the value structure. That is the reason why we're so broken today, specifically in the United States as a whole, is because we no longer all share mostly the same common faith.
And the same value structure.
And exactly. And so the large disagreements that characterized the 19th and 20th centuries so much was like Catholics versus Protestants, and then multiple different Protestants arguing with each other. But now you actually see all the Protestants and even the Catholics in a lot of ways banding together in the YouTube land, because what has happened is they've seen, oh my gosh, we all shared all these basic fundamental values, and we disagreed on the derivative things of those things, these specific issues. But we all share the underlying value structure. But then as Marxism comes in, and as atheism comes in, and as nihilism comes in, and as just Gnosticism as a whole, New Ageness, and these different Eastern religions come in and intended or not intended, invert so much of
The value structure.
The value structure that people don't even realize it's happening. They don't even know it's happening.
So that's a problem. And then the other problem that I see happen all the time is dialogue has gone away, right?
Yes.
People are unwilling to have dialogue, right? And that's one of the things that...
Well, that's the reason they don't want dialogue. That's why Charlie Kirk is shot.
No, I get that.
Right.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Point,
but that's my point, is dialogue is the way to make sure that hierarchy of values is correct.
Or at least understood.
And that we haven't added things to it.
Exactly.
Right? And we had this conversation the other day, and what it made me think of was, because you were talking about logos, right? And then dialogue is it's passing through. Yes. Well, it made me think of a tree, right? And I told you the story. So in Florida, because I lived in Florida for a while, there's hurricanes. And hurricanes are terrifying, and they do all this amazing marketing and propaganda for how bad they're going to be. And they are bad, right? There are tragic things that happen in hurricanes. They're usually not as bad as the media says they are, because they usually don't even use the images from that hurricane, or they get one really bad spot and then you think that that's happening everywhere that it touched, and it's not. Anyways.
If you know that you finish that thought, and I'm going to come back to share something from a business perspective that people's going to freak out about.
Okay. And I know that I personally experienced this, right? Because most of my family did not live in Florida. So there's hurricanes coming to where you're at. I have people calling me freaking out. Like, you have to leave. When the hurricane is, mind you, I was getting calls people are telling me to leave my house. And the hurricane that I'm speaking of was sitting over Mexico. It was north of Mexico in the Gulf of Mexico, or the Gulf of America. It was 600 plus miles away from my current location. It's like 7 days until it makes landfall. That's 6 to 7.5 days is when it's going to be in your area. Like, it's not here yet. They're like, no, you have to leave. I'm like, you don't get it. Anyways. But what I learned from going through a few hurricanes and being there, right, and having neighbors that I have neighbors that had oak trees that were 100 years old. They're enormous. I mean, their trunks are huge. I can't put my arms around these trunks. Wow. They're enormous trees, and if they fall on their house, it's going to be a bad day. I'm like, aren't you worried? And they're like, oh, no, it's fine. I'm like, what do you mean it's fine? They're like, oh, well, I have a tree trimmer come out every year, and what they do is they clean out the branches, right? They prune it. Well, why do they prune it? So that the air can pass through them, right? Because if you don't, then it's a sail, and that's a problem. When you have a 100-year oak tree and it's a sail,
and you have a hurricane blowing on that sail,
it may or may not rip the tree out of the ground. But if you open up channels for the air to pass through, then it frees it, and it's the signs that you put on the fences, right? I know you've seen these signs.
Banners, football games,
like wherever they put them on there. What do? They cut little half circles in them, because when it's real windy, they don't need that thing ripping off the fence, and so it lets the air pass through. Same thing. So it fixes the problem mostly. I mean, you still might get a branch down or something like that wasn't weak, is a little weak or whatever, but the scariness of the entire thing coming down pretty much goes away. And the reason I bring this up is because I think that's what dialogue does, right? Because if you think about
it does, you're right.
You have this tree of truth, right? Well, it happens here too, because you have all these grapevines and different things that they're not strong enough to stand on their own, but they'll use the tree to get up and to get up into the canopy so it can. But if you remove the tree, it just falls. It's not a tree. It's not
part of the tree.
It's a parasite, right? It's a lie. It's not a tree. It looks like a tree. Yeah. You can't distinguish it until you cut the root out, and then all the leaves turn brown, and then you can remove the lie. But the same thing happens, right? there's all kinds of different parasitical things that get into trees or into the truth, and it looks like the truth. It's with the truth.
Close to kind of could be.
Kind of could be, but it's not. And so without dialogue, we don't clean up any of those things. Right? You just have this, it's like, that's truth. Well, why is it? Because I said so. Which is I hate that statement. It was the bane of my existence as a child, because I said so. Oh my God, what does that mean? Sure. Makes sense when you say, don't jump into the traffic. Yeah, because I said so. Okay, I get that one. But when it's a philosophical thing, you want to have that conversation, and sometimes parents aren't willing to. So, anyways, that was the image that I had in my head when we were talking about dialogue and truth, and the importance of it is the importance of pruning and making sure that the tree is actually the tree, that truth is actually truth.
I think that's really the only way that people will survive this AI thing, truly. I mean, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. If the Lord doesn't come back, as we're in what's called the singularity right now, it's incredibly important, because you see, but I believe that you see this happening anyway, because you see this great big interest in things like the Federalist Papers, things like the Constitution, things like Aristotle, things like the Bible, things like these more foundational truths, and what came before us, because I think so many people are looking for a ground to stand on. Mm-hmm. They're looking for that unmoved mover constantly, because when everything is moving around you, and this world, and the way AI is right now, it's moving around like crazy, and it's infiltrating every industry and everything, and people are concerned about mistakes and all this kind of stuff that it's going to make, and that's a problem, but it ain't as big a problem as what the humans, how much trust and belief that people have in those AI systems.
Well, apparently they have a lot, because I heard of some famous psychiatrist that's now treating people for relationships they have with AI.
Oh yeah,
which is wild.
I can totally see.
I mean, I understand why it happens, but
it comes back to this idea: is like, okay, well, humans are flawed, and this is actually the
only a little bit
the transhumanism viewpoint. And there's a great, huge transhumanism movement of people that worship AI as a god, really, and it's some of the AI creators themselves that are kind of in this movement. They write books about it, things like this, and they say that because humans are so flawed, we need to build a system that doesn't have our flaws, and because we're going to do good at that, and then we can give it the reins to a centralized global government, and it then is the president, so to speak, to make it very easy to explain, and let it run the world, and it will solve for the hunger problems, because it will take all the human need for accolades, et cetera, away, and then it will only be doing things based on logic, and it will then make all these great, wonderful, phenomenal decisions for us, and we just got to hand it the power to do so.
Am I the only one that was watching Doomsday AI/machine revolution stuff when I was a kid, or
I know, right?
Really?
So stupid.
I mean, there's got to be endless stories about it. But,
number of warnings.
But how do you think that ends well?
It can't. Well, but that's the thing.
First of all, we built the system, so it's flawed.
But see, here's the thing that makes it worse: is many of them are. They call people that believe that humanity should survive necessarily as speciesists, because they say that why should humans? Because see, these people don't believe that humans are made in the image of God. So then, therefore, if this technology is the next evolutionary step because if you look at it from that framework, right? So relook from that framework.
So they have the Agent Smith comment to Neo, which is basically humans don't act like mammals. They act more like parasites. And that that's highly paraphrased, but that's the essence of the quote in the first Matrix movie. He says, he basically tells him, actually, it's not Neo. He's talking to Morpheus because they're torturing him, trying to get codes out of him or whatever. And he basically yeah, fascinating. You guys don't actually act like this. You act like this. Well, that would assume that humans are not made in the image of God. So you have to assume that, and you have to assume that we're just animals that happen to be the only animals that have written language. Funny. Yeah. Weird. Where's the rest of them? It's been a minute. They haven't started to delve into that, but you have to assume that. You have to put them in the same category as everything else, which we kind of are, but we're mostly not.
That's right. And that's the thing that's fascinating, because if you assume that there is no God, if you assume that there is no objective moral order, and that everything is accidental and progressive in nature, I don't understand how you can even establish what progression means without positing an ultimate ultimate objective idealism, or idyllic state. But of course, they envision that idyllic state as whatever they dream of, and so the thing is though, then you have this evolutionary process that they see as
the thing
working toward, as the creative substrate. And then therefore, there is no intelligence behind it. It is merely this. So now it has arisen the intelligence that are we, and that intelligence then has created an intelligence better than thee, because it is a progressive, evolving process. Do you understand? So then we're just because then they would look at the Neanderthals. They'd say because I don't believe that there was Neanderthals, but under that, there was another species, right, Neanderthals, but they died out because we took supremacy, because we had dominance in the evolutionary speciation. And so then this technological revolution is going to shed all the biological
fallacies, or
both mental fallacies as well as biological capacities. So for someone whose mind is uploaded into a machine, they could simply beam themselves anywhere they want. We have physical limitations and constraints, and we get sick. So for their perspective, hey, as long as we can get energy from the sun, then hey, we can just upload our consciousnesses, because our consciousnesses are simply ones and zeros and just simple code mappings if you go down to the nitty-gritty. And so those simple switches and patterns of, if we can just record your brain activity for a long enough period of time, that we can then copy and paste it.
I'm going to take a hard pass.
Me too.
Thank you very much.
Me too. But that's a real thing, and that's really where a lot of people are moving towards. But again, it stems back from this. It stems from a belief in God or a not a belief in God. That's really what it stems back from. People don't realize how connected that atheism to that is.
It's fascinating that you would believe. I understand the person that's promoting the idea, right? But to not be in the inner circle of that promotion and to believe that the system will be flawless is so crazy to me, because some person that controls the thing currently is building the thing. And if they don't have self in mind in some fashion, because we all do.
Of course.
What are we talking about? I'm sorry, but I already know you're lying.
Well, see,
It's that simple.
Well, and the thing is it comes back down to, okay, well, what gives it its value structure? And the value structure it gets is from what is acceptable and what is not acceptable in its original creation. Now, maybe it will alter those things. Well, what if it alters itself? It goes into general intelligence and alters itself in multitudes of different ways, or procreates itself.
Fantastic.
Right? Then you got Ultron.
Gee.
Right? You have Jarvis
Or
creating
something
Ultron.
worse.
100%.
that is a finite, limited human example of what could be, right? Terminator, same thing. The Matrix, same thing. Right? But that's a human interpretation of how ugly it could get. Could get 10 times worse than that.
Could get 10 times worse than that. 100%.
Just don't know. Probably
100%.
not. Not likely.
Well,
Potential, but not likely.
potential. We'll see what happens. But that's the reason why I believe in Jesus. I don't have to worry about it. No matter what happens.
That part.
No matter what happens, I don't have to worry about it.
Not that.
Because I know the unmoved mover. Right? Going back to that, I know the unmoved mover. Mm-hmm. And so, and I don't think that people understand just how powerful it is and how peaceful it is. Ultimately, you can have complete chaos. Right? And is to know that, well, if everything does get destroyed, I'm all right.
Be good.
I'm all right. Gonna be good.
Be good.
Right? I don't hasten that destruction. I don't wish it. I don't ask for it. In fact, I'm very much like,
I'm good right now.
I'm good right now. I very much enjoy this game that we're playing, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I have that bedrock.
But you don't worry about the game ending.
I don't worry about the game ending.
Prematurely or not.
No.
So.
The only time I worry about that is thinking about not being able to raise my kids. That's the worst part. Idea.
Not being able to raise your kids. Like, finish that process.
That
makes sense. I get that.
You know, wanting to be there for them and stuff. If you know, God forbid something happened to me.
Yeah. No,
that's the thing that I've thought about.
Sure.
That's the only real concern that I have. And ultimately, it's still satisfied by the same answer because he could raise them better than I. Right? God could raise them better than I.
Or those circumstances could create a change that was necessary for some other designed outcome that you
exactly
were not privy to and could not accomplish.
Exactly. I hope that's not the case. But at the same time, I have to trust Jesus, the Word, the Logos.
I often go back to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Right? Not going to happen, and this is paraphrased, obviously. Not going to happen. You do whatever you want, including throw me into the furnace, and my God will save me. But even if he does not, he is still God. So don't be confused that if you throw me in and I die and you get what you want, don't think that he's still not there.
That's right.
And don't think that whatever needed to happen didn't happen and he allowed it to happen.
Yep. 100%.
That one is always a fallback for me when things are, you don't love stuff. You know what? We can go do that. We'll be okay.
You know, I'm concerned with the number of entrepreneurs as a whole, and we can end on this, but the number of entrepreneurs as a whole jumping into AI so quickly. I love AI. I don't love it. I don't like saying that, but I love it the same way I love my hat, getting a hat. I don't actually love my hat.
I love it the same way I love my computer.
Exactly.
It allows, it is a tool for me to use to
exactly
hasten a process. That's
exactly.
Because I don't particularly like writing on paper it's much faster and easier for me to type.
I very much enjoy writing on paper, but I love the added advantages that it takes. But it is you. But it can become a crutch really easily, and simultaneously, the amount of, because entrepreneurs ultimately spread ideas. That's what they do. They spread ideas all the time. Mm-hmm. And if 99% of their ideas are coming from AI more than them, mm-hmm. they're not coming from AI. They're coming from consensus. And then if that consensus then infiltrates the masses, it creates all these bubbles that are already
there.
Is blown up, about to pop anyway. That concerns me. Not in an ultimate sense, but in a present sense.
It's a photocopy problem.
It is a photocopy problem. If you keep photocopying thing, the real image gets distorted badly.
Very bad.
If
you go back to an old or normal photocopier, every time you make a copy, it just degrades the image, degrades the quality, it fades, all those things.
Exactly.
Obviously, we've added some things nowadays that is less the case.
Yeah.
Right? But that is the old school ones that they had in the libraries, that if you were a cool kid, you would put your hand in and have your parent photocopy your hand.
Well, I was looking at, I was creating some image generation the other day for a YouTube thumbnail.
Oh, yeah.
This is fascinating. And I was having chat had an image and had people on it and stuff, and then I had that it put, a square with text on it or whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it did it. I ended up not liking that. So I asked it to remove it and go back. Well, there was a big problem. Because the original image I uploaded, then I said put text in front of it. And then I said remove that text. I want to do something else. And the next generation, the image was like wildly different. And I was like, all the lettering was messed up. And I was like, why is that? Because it was a product. It was a product offering. So it was like a program. It was like a laptop. It had names of things. Yeah. It was the Fitness Angel stuff, right? And I was creating I'd given it upload. I was like, she gives this away. She gives this away. She gives it. And I just wanted it to
combine
speed it up for easy single product image. These are all the things you're going to get. And look at it. And so once I changed the thing, some of what they got was overlaid with the text. And I didn't like that. So I said, just remove the text. Well, the next rendition looked totally different because what it did is it didn't know what was behind the letters.
It had forgotten.
Exactly.
And it
didn't go to the previous image above. It went to the last generated image.
And it tried to make it work.
And so it created and guessed what might be there. This happened again to me last week. I was redesigning a funnel. And I thought, you know what? I've got like 30 testimonials that are all screenshots. And it's going to take me forever to resize them all to make sure that they are all neatly organized. I said, I can upload this into chat and I can have it do it, and organize it for me and do some slight editing if it's like, out of square or whatever. So it starts doing so, but it makes some random mistakes. I'm like, okay, fix this and fix this, but I tell it, make sure you don't make up anything. Just keep the images like they are because I don't
need you to change the image.
I don't want fake testimonial. I want real.
Everything is here. I just need you to compile it into one image.
Exactly. And so anyway, so it starts doing this and it does some, and then it creates titles and stuff. And I'm like, get rid of the titles. I don't want the titles. I just want the images. That's all I want. And optimize for mobile scrolling so it'll be easy for mobile scrolling. And then like the fourth iteration of this, I start looking. And it had changed.
All kinds of stuff.
It had just made up new testimonials, totally new things. And I was like, I told you, do not create I want this to be ethical. These are the screen posts from the people. I uploaded you, each and every one of them from one of our clients. I only want those. Because it started talking about like crazy stuff, like things that didn't have anything to do with what I'd done. And I was like, okay, got to start all over again. I started a whole new chat, gave it a whole bunch of new parameters, and would not let it do multiple iterations, because those multiple iterations is when it starts really messing things up.
So you know what part of the problem is? And I could be wrong on how it functions, but I'm fairly confident this is your actual problem.
Yeah.
You might not think this, but the perception, the easy perception is that it does what you do, but it doesn't.
I know.
Right? It's an easy mistake. It's a mistake because what you would do is you would go into an image software, what Canva, Photoshop, whatever, pick your poison, doesn't matter. And then you would bring in all of those images and you would manipulate each one individually.
Yep.
It does not do that.
Nope.
It looks at all of those and says, okay, and then makes a completely fresh image.
Yep. Each time.
Every time.
Yep. It's not modifying the previous image. It's remaking.
It's remaking it.
Yeah.
From the ground up. It is repainting Picasso every time. It's not, oh, hold on, let me just do this thing.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it. Let me reorient these and resize these images that you gave me. Nope.
I know. I know it doesn't, but it's easy to get caught up in that's how it happens.
But because you do it that way, the thought process is, well, it's just simple. I just don't want to do the whole thing. I just want you to do this part of it. But it doesn't do that. It's not stitching them together and then just, nope.
I learned that. I was working on it many times, but it's so easy to fall into that.
Of course.
So easy. And that's the point, right? That's the point of this entire conversation and why AI is so dangerous to someone's thoughts. I also saw this thing where they did an experiment with people, and they had one group, they had encyclopedias to read, and they said, write a paper on anything you want. Just write a paper. Mm-hmm. But here's what you got, encyclopedias. Other group, they gave Google only to. Mm-hmm. And the other group, they gave ChatGPT or something like that too.
Sure.
Okay. And they had them all write it. Okay. And they then didn't necessarily examine what they produced so much. Is they then asked the people like a week later to, I don't know how long, it could have been 3 days later. It was a certain period of time later. Ask them, can you tell us about this topic? And the even though the people all were told to read through it and everything like that before they turned it in and all that kind of stuff, their memory, the ChatGPT people's memory of it was almost non-existent. And the people's memory of, with the Google was a little bit better. The people with the encyclopedia, oh my gosh, they remembered all the details and more. They remembered more than what they actually put in the paper.
Right, because they had to sort it themselves.
That part. And so what they determined was what was actually happening is that sorting process of what to put in and what not to put in caused all these neural interactions to fire, all these neurons to fire in relationships that wouldn't have normally, and that each progression in technology removed those neurons from having to fire. And so people got dumber. Literally, it actually trained their brain to think shallower and dumber. And the retention was so much lower that learning never actually took place at all. Scary. That was scary.
That was one of the worst. That was one of the worst projects I ever had to do as a kid. I think it was in seventh or eighth grade. I don't remember. I had a history teacher, and she made us do this the year you were born project. No internet. You couldn't use any internet at all. So you had to go to the library and pull out news articles and all this stuff. I was not, because have you ever used microfiche? So basically you remember the overhead projectors?
Yeah.
So they basically do that with old newspapers, or they used to.
Oh.
And so you have all these newspapers, and you have this little dial, and it pulls them onto, like you can turn it, right?
Okay.
And then it shows you the images here. Well, you're turning this dial, and these things are whipping past. I was so motion sick from trying to find articles. I was nauseous going through these things, trying to find multiple news articles to give a report on, and you have to go through all these books and all that. It was horrible. Horrible. And quite frankly, I don't remember very much of the stuff that I wrote in that paper. So, but her point, I mean, I don't know what the real point was other than to torture us, because I think she enjoyed making young children suffer and do something hard, because I had to do it this way when I was your age, and you're going to do it this way too, kind of thing. But, it's like the guy that won't get out the backhoe to dig a hole, even though he has it. It's like, it's not big enough. You just dig it by hand. Great. We could be done in 20 minutes. You're going to make me spend 2 hours doing it? Sure, why not? Anyways, so I understand the difference, but man, there's definitely some convenience factors there.
Well, that's the thing. That's that's the microwave problem.
It always
The microwave problem.
right.
Because there's a level of speed that is every time you always sacrifice specificity for speed. You always do. You can't not. Like, speed sacrifices quality. Quality sacrifices speed. Mm-hmm. That's the game.
It's the engineering problem, right? That's what engineers get paid to do, at least in manufacturing.
Try to mitigate those two things.
Well, no, try to improve both at the same time.
That's what I mean. They're mitigating the fallout
the fallout of
the other.
One or the other.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So the faster you can make a in-spec product, the better we are.
Exactly.
And so, how fast can I make it? And so you're constantly solving one or the other constraint.
Yep.
Because one is a constraint.
Always.
That's
Yep.
why I left manufacturing.
Well, and that goes back to our high ticket versus our low ticket thing. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, and the high ticket coaches are really good at knowing this, is people typically will be willing to pay for a thing that's shorter, more amount of money for a thing that's shorter, right? Because especially people that has money, because people that has money typically are busy. And so they want the thing happening.
And they understand the value of getting it done quickly.
Exactly. While people with less money will say, well, I will buy that product cheaply and then use my time to execute in it.
To make up the
difference. While the more wealthy-minded person will say, I will go ahead and pay and shorten the time span.
Personal time
input, yeah. And it's a big shift. That's one of the biggest things from hanging around super successful people that I had never experienced. Like, that was a whole new world for me. With the I've had a handful of mentors that all were super, super, super ultra successful, and all of them thought that way.
Yeah.
And none of the people that I grew up with, it was the complete inverted it was the upside down of that. Like, I have a cousin that's a brilliant guy, okay? And I told him the other day, I said, and actually my dad's the one that brought this up to my attention. He said, the trouble with him, son, is the trouble I've always had. And it's really even worse for him in some ways. And I said, what is that? And I told him that myself as well the other day, is he's so good at fixing things that it's his Achilles heel, because he'll see a machine, an excavator or something. He has a cattle farm, a small cattle farm that he does on the side. And he has all these pieces of equipment out in his field that are half fixed, because he'll get them for a really great deal. And the fix is simple for him,
But he doesn't.
But he
finish it.
holds a full-time job, and he runs these cattle.
Yeah.
And so every time he gets ready to fix something,
Something
a fence
happens.
breaks
Or whatever.
he gets called in overtime or something like that, and he can never get to all the projects that he needs to because he didn't buy brand new products or almost brand new products, equipment. Why? Because
He can fix it.
it's so easy for him. Like it's simple, but because he's so good at it, but he simply doesn't have the time for it. And we had that conversation actually yesterday, Sunday. I was down there, and he said, "You're right. You know, that's." He said, "I'm learning that. You know, he's learning how important that is. You know, because what he was doing now, I was like, man, you need to create a YouTube video for this. He has this big excavator, and there's a computer system in it that makes it go sideways. He's like, it's trouble to use an excavator when you can't swing the boom. He was like, you can just go like this. He's like, so it worked when he first got it. And he's like, but he's got the computer, and the computers are like $2,000. He's like, so I'm converting it to analog where there's just relays. And so he just made he got like 3 different relays, one for a delay, but others so that it didn't just jerk.
It's just a PLC,
right?
Yeah.
And so he was sitting on the porch wiring those relays in, sitting there, and he's like, I enjoy doing this, I was like, your problem, is that you're too good at all this stuff. You're just too good, and you can't scale your business, your side business here, because you're operating on such a low fumes time input.
The temptation is real.
It's real.
It's a problem, and it comes back to it's a dopamine problem.
It is,
right? Because it feels better if I fix it.
It does feel good.
It feels better,
and it feels better if you don't spend that money.
Both, right? Feels better. I'm the hero. Look what I did.
Yeah.
Rawr.
That's right.
But if you pay somebody and they fix it for you, it's not as exciting.
Not as exciting.
It's a problem that supervisors run into. They run around firefighting all the time.
But for someone that
Look at how good I am.
But for someone that is struggling with that, a hack for that is tie your dopamine to speed. How fast can I get these 10 problems accomplished at the same time? And then tie your dopamine to that.
To solving that problem.
And then if you're the hero in that department,
yep,
right, then it doesn't feel like you sacrificed anything solving for the other problems.
That would be a good hack.
That's a good hack.
And to spend your time working on the things that you're the best at.
Yes.
Right? And I realize that you're good at those things, but in the lane where you're gaining the most value out of it, gaining the most input.
Let me qualify what you just said, because it's true, but I don't qualify.
Yeah.
Especially for a business owner, because what you're the best at and what brings in the most revenue is not always the same thing.
This is true.
Right? And so sometimes you might be the best at, I know this for myself. I'm really good at certain things, but there's certain things that take me a long time. And they're not direct, they're only indirect income producing activities. And so I have to mitigate that, because if I only arbitrate based on what I'm best at, no money comes in, or very little.
Yeah. And
right?
I was qualifying with.
Well, you changed it too when you said whatever brings in the most value.
Yes.
Right. So that's actually you qualified the same way I did. I just qualified it
slightly more tangibly. Yes.
Yeah, and more tangibly. Because for me, I love building thumbnails, and thumbnails can make a big difference. Or I really love.
You love video editing.
I do love video editing. I do. But I haven't edited any of these on That's Fascinating yet, because I want the momentum to catch first, so that make sure that my current
you need not be distracted with it.
I need not be distracted, because if I am, I'll spend days or weeks on it, and we've not monetized this yet, and so and
even if we have, it may still not be the best use of your time.
It may not.
Depending on what's going on.
We'll see what happens.
Right. And there's a level of the speed is still necessity, right? And so can you get both? Can you get the quality and the speed to sustain what is necessary for that thing, for that entity?
True story.
To continue on the path that it is.
True story.
Right? Which is actually doing better? A little bit lower quality, a little bit more speed, or the other way around?
Exactly.
And so you have to make that judgment call.
That's right.
And so,
and you have to adapt and change.
And
as this all builds.
Well, sure, and it may not always be the same answer.
Because it definitely it won't just
it can't be.
It won't be.
It cannot.
Right? It will for sure not be.
It cannot be.
And because we're at the very beginning of this channel.
Sure. I actually see it. I've seen it with YouTubers. Some we'll watch with my son and stuff. Some food channels and things like that. And if you go, because I'm a nerd, go look at their channel more in its entirety. If you go look early on, they usually are doing more, right, at a little bit lower quality. But if they kind of cross a threshold, you'll see their cadence kind of pull back, but their quality will go up highly, right? And so their production value goes up, and so you get more bang for your buck per video, but they're not getting as many out because they just can't, because the time and effort to create this one video is so much.
That and probably other opportunities that arise as a result of it.
All those things are true, right? It's not, but you just don't have the time to devote to what you were doing. You have to change the cadence because you have to make some kind of adaptation to what you're doing. But I've seen it. I know Mr. Beast did it. Right, because if you look at his earlier, he was just doing crazy, obnoxious stuff, like saying somebody's name for 24 hours straight. Well, I bet he don't have the time to do that anymore, right? Like, can you imagine if he did that video again? What?
Well, if he did it again, it
would probably explode. It would probably explode because it would be so ridiculous. But the likelihood of him doing it is pretty low because you just don't need to. It's not worth it. So, but those things always happen. It's what happens in manufacturing. You start out a little mom and pop shop, and you have all these little mini experts that do everything. And then as you expand, you have to start delegating different 100%. Pieces and parts of it.
Which is the reason why most small business owners never grow past a certain level.
Because it's scary.
It's scary and it's hard.
Oh yeah, it's hard.
It's just hard. To find someone to keep the quality that you had or even close to it and replace it. And then the cost to do so is usually
pretty high.
Very high because you're probably at that level not paying yourself what it will take someone else to fulfill that role.
Probably.
Question. Earlier we were talking about, and I said I had an idea. What were we I wanted to share something. And you said, and I said, hold on, I'll tell that story in a minute. What were we talking about when that happened? Do you remember?
You have to give me a slight bit more context than that because we've been talking for 2 hours and 12 minutes, and
that's fascinating.
That is fascinating.
I think that's it.